Welcome back, everybody. Now, plans to not only cut emissions on our roads, but also your speed too. Slow down, everyone, for the sake of the ice caps. Reports today that the government could consider cutting the speed limit on motorways from 70 miles an hour to 64 miles an hour as they look to cut emissions and the UK's dependence on oil imports. Well, the revelations coincide with new figures released today which show that electric cars accounted for a fifth of all new car sales in the UK. Now, it represents a steady rise in the proportion of electric vehicles being sold ahead of the government's deadline of 2030, which mandates that all new cars sold from that point onwards must be electric. Critics, however, have raised numerous issues with the plan, including the fact that in the UK, fewer than 40,000 charging points actually exist, apparently. They're saying it's an unrealistic target. Joining me now is Howard Cox, founder of FairFuelUK campaign. Howard, thank you very much. Are people being conned into buying an electric car?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big... Let's be clear, electric vehicles are incredible pieces of technology. They really are incredible, but they're not practical. They don't go as far. You get this range anxiety, the actually cradle to grave from in terms of production process against an internal combustion engine. There's not much difference in terms of the emissions.
Well, this is the key point, right? So the electric cars only really make sense if they save people money and save the planet. Do they do either of those things?
No, they do not. It's ridiculous. It's all virtual signalling BS. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry if I said that
right. It's not the worst thing I'll say today. Carry on.
But the thing is, the whole reason I wrote the article in The Sun today was to point out that we've only got 6-7 years before we are told, and we have been told by the government, it's a mandate, an edict. It's not in legislation yet, so that's why we're still fighting it, is that we cannot buy a new diesel or petrol car in 2030. And that's the issue, the reason why I'm working with The Sun to actually get some realisation that the 2030 ban is going to cost us a fortune. I recently commissioned the CBR report, the economic gurus, who wrote an article or produced a report which simply said that the actual benefits of the 2030 ban will cost 5 times to achieve. So
is this to each driver? Or just in terms of for the nation?
To the economy, but it means each driver. For every household till 2050, then the net zero target, it's going to cost every household £1,000.
I mean, it is shocking stuff. And also with energy costs going up, electricity costs coming up, one would have thought that actually, all right, when I go and... Full disclosure, I do have a diesel, right? When I go and fill that up now, it makes my eyes water sometimes. But is that just going to be the same if I got an electric car?
Well, this is the point. The actual cost of actually electricity to the charge, especially in public charging points, is huge. There's not much difference. And from your point of view, and don't be ashamed to admit you drive a diesel, they are superb cars. I don't know if it's a Euro...
I like the noise it makes.
The Euro 6 diesels are very clean. If we're talking diesels of 15 to 20 years ago, they were foul things. They were passing out a lot of things. But we were told to drive a diesel. Do you remember?
Yes.
Year 2000. And that's why I've actually headed this article that I think EVs are going to be the Betamax of the future.
Yeah, but also it's how we actually get some of the components for our electric vehicles. And some of that appears to be child slave labour in Africa.
Yeah, all of the rare earth metals like cobalt and lithium do come from countries that do exhibit that sort of mining. But also, China is buying up every single mine in the flipping world.
Yeah.
And they will have control of all the supplies of lithium and cobalt. And this is the sort of thing that is not being taken on board by the government. All this is going to do is going to cost the economy. It's going to damage the economy hard. And this is the big thing. There is clean fuel technology evolving. We didn't need to be forced into one choice, electric vehicles.
But why have they done this? Is it Greta Thunberg?
It is definitely the green spads and the green people in Whitehall, which I come across all of the time. And fundamentally, we're not getting a balanced debate, except on GB News. This is the sort of thing we can talk on both sides of the argument. And that's the point. Electric vehicles are great things, but they're not practical.
The thing is, though, it's a little bit like mask wearing. I'm absolutely fine, of course I am, with anyone who wants to wear a mask. I'm not fine with being told that we have to wear a mask. I am, of course, fine with anyone who wants to drive an electric car or a diesel or a petrol. I don't like the idea of being told that I have to drive an electric car. When it comes to slowing down on motorways, they want to take it from 70 miles an hour to 64 miles an hour in order to save polar bears. Is that realistic?
Well, this is part of a full net zero report on a number of issues, energy supply, etc. And one of them is actually slowing down on motorways by 10%. We've heard this before. It's ridiculous. It doesn't save anything. There's no proof. I'm calling for the data to show me that this will actually save Poland.
Well, just on that as well, when you drive around cities now and you see things like congestion charges or you see things like cycle lanes being introduced, does that not slow traffic down, bottleneck it, and mean that there's more emissions?
Absolutely right. Congestion causes more emissions, and this is the paradox of the sort of thing. Next week, I issue a poll results to show you about the ultra-low emission zone expansion that we're paying even more to the Greater London and what that means to businesses and restaurants and theatres and things like that. And I'm willing to come back on it, but it's...
Please do.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just very quickly and very finally as well, Howard, do you get a lot of stick from eco-warriors?
Yes, I do. I have death threats. I've had faeces through the letterbox. I've had all sorts of things that have... but I'm sorry, I'm on the side of common sense.